What is up, everybody, and happy Wednesday from the early edge. Happy Wednesday indeed. Hopefully your new year is getting off to a good start. We got off to a great start yesterday. Let's look at the Tuesday recap screen. How is 6-1-1? Buckets gets the push. Zach loses the one here, but we really clean the board, and these site plays have really been crushing. 3 for 3 there. Loving the Tuesday recap. But ladies and gentlemen, enough about yesterday. But let's look forward to the here and now, and let's bring on the stars of the show. It's Wednesday, so you know who we bring to the table. We got Tim Doyle with the props, with the hammer. We've got Mikey B doing the air traffic control. We've got Mike McClure with the totals and Martin Green with the soccer picks. Tim, I got to go to you first. You're only on once a week so far. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I see it. You wanted something last week. You mushed me. First of all, Martin, thank you so much for finally changing your outfit. I'm tired of seeing that red shirt that you wore every week. But Sia, you're like, oh, Tim Doyle's been perfect on the show. Tim Doyle picks nothing but winners. Tim Doyle goes 0-2 last week with his best bets because in both games I picked, no one decided to play. So Sia, I don't want to have to put you in the bathroom, okay? Put Sia in the bathroom if I have a bad week this week.
So the news was that I was the big jinx on you and that I was the big jinx on Buckets because I brought up the same thing on Buckets and the very next play he lost. So he tried to jinx me, and I even tried to jinx myself in that moment just to prove that jinxes didn't work. And last week, I believe my tally was 9 wins, 1 loss.
Wow.
So I'm just saying the jinx doesn't always come to fruition. It was either 8-1 or 9-1. I got to go back. I lost the Vikings play. That was the only play I lost the entire week. Of course, Vikings got completely smashed. I probably should have gotten 2 L's for that one. All right, let's look at some wins and losses with the marquee matchups. We're going to get everybody involved here. Mike, I'm going to come to you first. We got the Bucks -3.5. We've got the Pacers here. And by the way, Martin dropped off just because he'll be in the chat, but when he comes back, he'll be delivering his soccer picks. We got the Bucks -3.5 at the Pacers. We know these odds are always powered by BetMGM. This total here is a little bit embarrassing. 258.5. It's the All-Star game. Mike McClure, do you like anything in this one?
I'll blindly play under in it. The computer makes the number 254. That kind of an edge is not, it seems like it's a big edge. It's not super attractive when you're talking about that many possessions and that high of a number. So it would be more of a lean than anything. But I think the thing you have to consider here is the injury report still. It's possible they get good news on the Indy side, but they've got Bruce Brown and Andrew Nembhard both listed questionable here. Both of those guys missing would be a pretty big deal in this particular matchup itself. So for me right now, I am not betting this, full disclosure on that, but I would lean, if you said you must play something, it would just simply be that under.
All right, Mikey B, we don't have to play anything, but do you have a lean here? Bucks -3.5 at Indiana, 258.5. I got to say it again because it's so staggering to me. This is like, I'm pretty sure of the 12-game slate, this is the biggest total that we've got. I hope it is at least. Do you like anything in this one?
Yeah, I completely agree with Mike. I would take the under. These two teams combined for 235 points on Monday. They've played 4 times this season. They've combined for 258 points, fewer than 258 points 3 times. This has nothing to do with the spread or the total, but if Nembhard and or Bruce Brown are out, I love watching TJ McConnell. He got right into it with Bobby Portis and Giannis driving the paint. The little man goes right in there. So watch TJ McConnell tonight. If those
TJ McConnell versus Portis, that would be an interesting matchup. Tim, I long for the days of Bucks Pacers like back in the day, like a little Rick Smits, Dale Davis action, maybe some Gary Payton on the other side, where the total would probably be somewhere in like the 178.5 range. This thing has exploded, this new era of basketball. I know I sound like an old man, but I don't appreciate the 258.5. Do you also like the under here?
I have a hard time betting unders, just puts me in a bad mood, but that is probably the right play. Mike mentioned it. 3 of 4 this year have gone under. I actually called on the NBA app this first matchup. No Lillard, but Giannis went out there midway through the second quarter. They were getting embarrassed. He goes berserk. He scores 54 points, but runs out of gas in the fourth quarter. The Bucks have only won 1 time this year against the Pacers, and in that 1 win, I took Giannis's ball after the game. That's where it is. It's right over my shoulder. So is that what it takes to win a game against the Pacers? Giannis has to have 64? This is becoming a rivalry. We're like watching it brew here. They obviously met in the in-season tournament. Another game the Pacers win. I don't know. I'd take Pacers money line here. I'd take Pacers plus the points. They've had the Bucks number.
I love it. All right, let's move on. We're not going to cover all 12 games. We got 7 games plucked here that we're going to talk about real quick with our marquee matchups. And then, of course, we're going to get into our best bets. Ben Horner, I see you in the chat. Martin Green in the chat answering questions. Haas says, Rick Smits reference. Now my day is complete. If you like the Rick Smits reference, or if you like these marquee matchups at all, or if you like this show, hit the like button. Do not forget to hit the like button. Do it right now so that you don't forget. Let's go to Nets at Rockets. Rockets at home, -5.5. It's a 233.5 point total. Mike McClure, I'm going right back to you. Anything you like in this one?
You know, it's tough here in this one. I don't love it. I lean to the Rockets side. I do think this is a little better matchup for Brooklyn than they played last night, but it is important to note that they played last night. It's the second night of a back-to-back. Not extreme travel going from New Orleans to Houston, but still, this Nets team, they've dropped 4 straight, haven't covered any of the last 5. I think this is potentially a get-right spot for them, but not at this number. I would need 7.5 or 8 to feel comfortable. So for me, it'd be Houston or nothing at this number, while recognizing that it is a little bit better of a matchup than they faced last night against New Orleans.
Japan in the chat. He says Rockets. And I know Rick Funcannon was in the chat early. He liked the Rockets too. Mikey B, do you agree?
I agree. Rockets here all the way. The Nets got smoked by the Pelicans yesterday. They've lost 9 of their last 11. The 2 wins came over the Pistons. The Rockets are 6-2-1 against the spread as a home favorite. The thing we got to watch here with the Nets is the last time they had a back-to-back set, they rested a lot of their starters. And then the ones that did play, like Mikal Bridges, he basically did so just to keep his games played streak alive. He only played the first quarter. I don't know if they do that again here because they were embarrassed last night, but that's something to keep an eye on as we see injury reports come out throughout the day.
All right, Tim Doyle, are we all Rocket men, as I lean towards the Rockets as well?
Yes, I'm going to go with the Rockets. Even when they lost 3 straight, 2 of those losses, they had the lead Houston late in the 4th against the Pacers, against the 76ers. You got to remember, this is a team that's like still learning, like they're pretty good. And right now they're above 500. I anticipate the Nets sit guys. Second half of back-to-back. Nets have been awful. 3 of the last 4 losses, they've lost by 16 or more. I think Houston rolls in the spot. Little known fact about Rick Smits, okay? Went to college at Marist. In the face moment at Coming to America, Rick Smits is playing in that game against St. John's. You got to look really closely.
Wow.
Yes, I could get into the weeds with Rick Smits knowledge, okay?
Okay, so real quick, that Coming to America, that was an actual game that they were at? Because I'm trying to remember that scene. I've seen the movie plenty of times.
In the face!
Yes,
dude, it's
that was an actual game that was being played?
The game being played was Marist versus St. John's.
This is the best piece of knowledge that's ever been dropped on the early edge, picks included. That was amazing. I'm going back and watching that. By the way, that is such there's so many iconic moments in that movie. Coming to America, one of the best movies, one of the best comedies of all time for sure. Certainly in the top 10. If you have a comedy you think is in the top 5 or top 10, put it in the chat. Naked Gun better be there. Pelicans at Timberwolves. Let's speed it up a little bit. Timberwolves -6.5, 222.5 point total. Mike McClure, going right back to you. Do we like the favorite 6.5 here?
Yeah, it's always an interesting number going up over 2 full possessions. I do lean that way. Slight under lean here as well. We know the Timberwolves one of the best defensive teams in the league. For me, it's about the Pelicans, though, and the travel situation. It's the second night of a back-to-back with meaningful travel going from New Orleans to Minnesota. Translation, don't expect Zion to play in this one. He'll be listed questionable all day. He'll be listed doubtful later this afternoon. He will ultimately be ruled out. This game probably closes 7.5 or 8. So if you're going to play the Timberwolves, I would do it now. Lean to the under.
Mike predicting the future, and he's usually right when he does that. Mikey B, do you agree with the Timberwolves -6.5, maybe grabbing it now versus waiting for some Zion news?
Yeah, this is pretty boring. I could just say ditto to what everything Mike just said there. I will add a little bit of nugget. The Timberwolves are actually one of the few teams in the league that have the size to match up with the Pelicans if Zion plays. But yeah, I would not be surprised if Zion sits this out, and I would go with the Timberwolves.
All right, ditto. Another movie reference from Ghost, of course. Shout out Demi Moore, Patrick Swayze and company. Tim Doyle, what do you like in this one?
Yeah, this is you either bet the Timberwolves coming off a disappointing loss to the Knicks, or you don't bet the game. Give me Minnesota.
I'm fearing for myself because I feel like a Rockets Timberwolves like money line parlay is in order, and I hate when I do that, especially midweek in the NBA. It's just like I'm asking for a loss. and it's probably at like not the best minus number there. But I just love both of those to win the game. All right, we'll move on though. Bulls at Knicks. We got Mikey B's Bulls at the Knicks. So Mikey B, I'm going to start with you here. Knicks laying 9.5, 220.5 point total. Again, odds powered by BetMGM. Mikey, what do you like in this one?
I would go with the Knicks. The Bulls are in a real rough spot here. They just played yesterday. Patrick Williams and Kobe White left that game with injuries. White said he could have come back in if it wasn't a blowout. Still no Zach LaVine, no Vucevic, Torrey Craig, important role player. I don't think they have enough depth to keep this game close.
Yikes, that doesn't sound good at all. Mike McClure, what do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything there. Second night of a back-to-back, they obviously had a tough task playing the Sixers with Embiid. He's a matchup nightmare when you've got those guys out there trying to defend him. So it makes sense why they lost that one. I like the Knicks here. Want to lean a little under on the total. Might isolate the Bulls team total under. It's a very low 105.5. But they play so slow. The Knicks will oblige, especially with the roster changes that they've made. It'll be a half-court game. So I'm not touching this game at all. But it is an under lean, a Knicks lean.
Tim, do we touch this game?
9.5 is really aggressive. I would probably buy it down a little bit more or throw it in a parlay. I always try to look for underdogs. I just think the Bulls are going to get whacked in this spot. Billy Donovan's from New York. I think he's going to be more worried about what they're doing after the game than during the game. Kobe White's even a game time decision. I think the Bulls are actually playing better without Zach LaVine. But Kobe White, if he doesn't play, they could lose this game by 30. So give me Knicks.
Yeah, okay. Clippers minus 3.5 at the Suns. I don't believe Kevin Durant is playing in this one. Makes me really want to lean towards the Clippers here. Mike McClure, I go back to you to start this off. What do we like in this one?
Yeah, it's a Clippers lean and an under lean. I know it gets boring to hear that, but the scoring in the NBA has been crazy to start. It settles down a little bit this point of the season anyway. But you look at the Clippers, they're a solid defensive team. You remove the offensive threat of Kevin Durant. Certainly hurts the offensive rating on that Suns side. So I do lean under pretty heavily here. The only scenario that gets a little dicey is a big Clippers win where they're scoring 128, 130. You're probably not cashing that under there, but 233, I made the number down to 229.
Mike Barner, what do we like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Clippers to cover the spread here. They are really hot right now. They've won 12 of their last 14. Of those 12 wins, they didn't cover in just 3 of those games. Suns are 6-13 at home against the spread, 0-2 against the spread as a home underdog. No Durant, Clippers all the way.
Tim Doyle, Mikey B says they're hot like Hansel. Are they?
Yeah, I mean, you have the big arch and then you have the big arches, okay? Kawhi Leonard, he's played the last 10 games he's played in, the Clippers are 10-0. I got some advice. You're going to bet this game? Probably find out if he's going to play. Because if he doesn't play, I like Phoenix in this spot. If he plays, I like the Clippers in this spot. So it really just comes down to that. Is Kawhi a go? Is Kawhi not a go? Because the last time Kawhi lost a game in a Clippers uniform, November 30th. So it's been a while.
Wow. By the way, speaking of arches and golden arches and McDowell's and coming to America, site says irony. I was watching Arsenio Hall show clips this morning. That is ironic, or if not coincidental. A really great talk show back in the day. How many movie references can we make in a single segment? Okay, we got 2 more games to go here. Heat at Lakers. Lakers 5.5 point favorites. I'm sure we're going to get a questionable tag from LeBron. I suspect he's going to play. 227.5 point total. Mike McClure, what do we like in this one?
A rare overlean actually here. 227. Yeah, this is I have this one up to 231. You remove Jimmy Butler defensively. I think that's a big deal. Caleb Martin doubtful as well. D'Angelo Russell going to sit. I think the Lakers end up playing a bit faster tonight. LeBron should be playing. He's listed questionable. Anthony Davis listed probable. Reddish is in. I think things, this Miami team, they have this unique ability to be competitive really no matter what combination of players they throw on the floor. And I think we get that effort here tonight. So yeah, give me a rare overlean at 227. I think it should be, again, closer to 230, 231.
All right. Mikey B, what do we like?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lakers here. This is the 4th game of a West Coast road trip for the Heat. Like Mike said, they're going to be shorthanded. I don't think D'Angelo Russell's – I think the Lakers are better without him, which is why he's probably not going to be on the team once the trade deadline passes. So, yeah, give me the Lakers.
Very interesting. Tim Doyle, what do we like in this one?
Yeah, it's simple. If loving Jaime Jaquez is wrong, I don't want to be right, okay? Give me the dog in this spot. I do worry that the Heat have been in L.A. for too many nights, all right? That is a little bit of a concern. But then again, they're in Miami, right? So there's always Sia. You know this. You like to dance, put on the black shirt like Simon Cowell, get out there on the dance floor. So if you want to find trouble in Miami, you certainly can find it in L.A. I believe that he can win the Eastern Conference. I believe that he can go back to the NBA Finals at full strength, which they're not going to be in this game. I like getting all these points. I think that's going to be the difference. Give me the dog.
I like watching Tim Doyle dance. And I love everybody continuing the Zoolander references that I started. That Hansel is so hot right now, says Big Cheesy. Martin Green says, so hot indeed. All right, let's go to our last marquee matchup. It's the Magic at the Kings. 4.5-point spread here. Kings the favorite. It's a 231.5-point total. This game, along with the last one, Heat Lakers at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mike McClure, any leans in this one?
Yeah, actually, you get another over lean from me. Wow. This one is interesting. Both teams on the second night of a back-to-back. When you look at how many minutes Banchero and friends had to play last night, that's, I think, concerning when you talk about the pace of play with the Kings here. So I like the total. I think we see a lot of points. I think they fill it up. I think it's tough defensively. And I made this number all the way up to 236. 231.5 in today's NBA is a pretty low number for a Kings home game.
Yeah, that's just sad. Mikey B, what do we like?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Kings to cover the spread here. Both these teams lost yesterday, but the Kings had the embarrassing loss to the Hornets. LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Mark Williams were all out. I think they're going to come out for this game fired up, and they're going to cover that spread.
Yeah, Big Cheesy says absolutely no defense tonight in Sacramento. Love the over. Tim Doyle's texting his insiders in Sacramento.
I love when McClure gets weird about numbers. This is when I just stopped paying attention. I had no idea what Mike said. I was gambling. I was already betting the over in this spot. No offense to you, Mike, but Sacramento's a hard handicap. They can beat anybody. They get hot, like the beam. They're at home. But I think Orlando's like a real deal squad, like win a playoff series, real deal. Even their losses, 6 to Golden State, 5 to Phoenix. So I'm going to ride McClure here. You know, this is like I'm all in here. To be loved. Oh, what a feeling. Come on, Mike. Get us a win.
I love it. All right, where can you make these bets on these NBA marquee matchups? I know one place, BetMGM. BetMGM has all the action for every sports fan. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get the first bet offer up to $1,500. If your first bet loses, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets with bonus code EDGE1500. That's EDGE1500. All right, we got to bring Martin Green back. We got to get to our best bets. We got to have everybody in the chat hit the like button. But before we do any of that, we got to hear a message from our partners.
Out there are two colossal beings, both forces of nature in their own regard. But in here, as soon as the chute bursts open, the duality of man and beast begins to fade. This is the PBR on CBS Sports Network.
Good questions in the chat. I know some people are asking about the early wedge. Yes, it is coming back. We're probably going to start up at the Farmers, so we're just a few weeks away from that. Meanwhile, we will have picks. A lot of them are going to be on the early edge. Good news for tomorrow, the Century, for example. Well, that's over in Hawaii. It doesn't actually start from an Eastern time standpoint. It doesn't start until about noon or later. I believe it's around 12:30 is the first guy teeing off. So we can be on this show tomorrow. I can be on this show tomorrow, actually delivering golf picks before any golf gets started. That's sort of the advantage to starting out there the first couple of weeks. We can come on to this 10 o'clock show and deliver picks really for the coming weeks here without anybody having teed off. So keep that in mind. We'll have maybe some first round leaders, but SportsLine will have picks. But in terms of the early wedge, we're looking at the Farmers to get that back on track. All right, we got Martin Green back on track. We got him in his new shirt. Thanks to, actually, you guys are matching. You and Tim Doyle, you guys can go to the club together. Oh my gosh, that is so adorable. Good stuff, guys. But Martin Green, what's not, this is epic. Okay, that's great. Thank you. What's not adorable is wins and losses. And you keep delivering wins. Let's deliver some more. What you got?
Yeah, I just want to say, Sia, that if I do lose, I'm going to blame Tim for peer pressuring me into changing out of my lucky Arsenal shirt. I'm actually wearing an away Arsenal shirt now. And actually, they did used to wear this shirt when they were a good soccer team. So Fingers crossed I can get some winners. I'm starting in Spain, and today's big soccer game takes place in Catalonia, where high-flying Girona host title rivals Atletico Madrid in an eagerly anticipated clash. Girona is a relatively small club, but they've enjoyed a remarkable run of results so far this season. They're unbeaten since September. They're level on points with Real Madrid at the top of the table, 7 points clear of Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, who are real giants of Spanish soccer. So tremendous results so far, but this is really a game that Atletico cannot afford to lose. They beat Girona home and away last season. They haven't lost to this team in the modern era. So I do think the odds on Atletico Madrid draw no bet look attractive, even though they're the underdogs. Going for Atletico plus 100. Looking ahead to the weekend, there's no Premier League action because the FA Cup is taking centre stage. Lots of big clashes to look forward to, including Arsenal-Liverpool. But one that really caught my eye is the Tyne Wear derby between Sunderland and Newcastle. Big local rivals, but their paths have diverged in recent years. Newcastle flying high in the Premier League since the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund bought the club. Sunderland languishing in the lower divisions. They've been pretty strong in recent weeks, but I still think that Newcastle should outclass them at the Stadium of Light. Going to be really fired up, and odds of minus 130 at BetMGM on a Newcastle moneyline win look terrific.
Absolutely. Love that. And again, if you lose either of these, everybody send your hate mail and your hate tweets to Tim Doyle, of course. By the way, we've got picks in the chat. Ben Horner dropping some hockey knowledge, I believe. So check that out. And Mike McClure, I do want to go to you because I mentioned golf. I mentioned the early wedge. I mentioned SportsLine, but I failed to kick it to you because SportsLine has something that maybe some people aren't super aware of. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight it when Doyle's on the show because he loves the numbers from the models. Tim cannot get enough of the models. PGA model up on SportsLine. Run the full simulated leaderboard where I give you the simulation percent, translate it to American odds. So it shows you I have this golfer at plus 2350. You can compare it to whatever your sportsbook's offering. Run that for all tournaments, tournament winner, top 20%, etc. All up there. I dropped the link in the chat, but for those looking for extra golf content, we have that every week at SportsLine.
And real quick, if you're not already a member of SportsLine, I've said it pretty much every day for the last couple of weeks. I mean, this is an incredible deal. You get 60% off the annual plan. Again, this is not a quarterly plan offer. This is 60% off the annual plan. All you have to do is go to sportsline.com/join and type in the promo code winners. You get 60% off the annual plan. Again, a lot of people who aren't already members, they think SportsLine, it's just picks. I get some of these picks on Early Edge. I know there's some more on SportsLine, but that must all be what SportsLine is. No, there's DFS picks. We cover all sports, some sports which aren't always covered on the Early Edge, but simulations such as those, some articles that you're just not going to see anywhere else from guys like Jacob Gibbs or RJ White, that is on SportsLine. You need to become a member. It's incredibly inexpensive, especially when you dial in that winner's promo code. So let's get to some college basketball picks because Mario, you're in the chat and you said, hey, any college basketball picks? And I've got one, and I know Mike McClure has one, and we've got some NBA picks and props coming up too, and an NBA side. But let's talk about Providence minus 6.5. Now, I went to the ACC yesterday. I took UNC, a road conference favorite. It's always touch and go when you do that, but I think UNC is for real. I think this Providence team might be for real as well. When they play in Providence, they are absolutely lethal. They play Seton Hall. This is a conference game. Seton Hall has actually been pretty good this year. They beat UConn 2 weeks ago. Really impressive. But then they lost by 20 at Xavier. Like, that is not a good loss. So Seton Hall, one thing about them, they have a lot of experience. I think that's going to lend itself really well to them when they get into Big East play, like further down the season, when they get into the Big East tournament. But right now, from a talent standpoint, I just really like Providence. When I'm comparing the talent, I love them. I love Providence's defense. I think they're going to be able to turn over Seton Hall. And when you get into that environment, coming off so many days off, I think Providence is really going to be ready to receive Seton Hall. So I really like them at home. This line was 6 yesterday. I wish I had put it in there. I think it could get up to 7 in some books. So 6.5, I still think is a pretty valuable number. This game could be close for a while, but I think Providence ends up shutting it down, wins this game by 9 or 10 points. Again, this pick was already up at SportsLine, like the Friars this year, quite a bit. All right, we got to get to Mikey B's props. 2 for 2 yesterday for Mikey B. Let's see if he can go 2 for 2 today. But before we do that, one more quick message from our partners.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Nathan Pike says, adding to my analysis, of course, he says, Seton Hall also terrible. So that's fair. They're actually not terrible. They got a couple players.
Beat UConn.
Yeah, exactly. Again, they did beat UConn. That is pretty impressive. They beat them by 15. But with that said, when you're going on the road against a team like Providence, who just absolutely murdered Marquette, again, I think that was December 23rd, less than 2 weeks ago, that's a tough place to play because Marquette is a for real team. You know who else is for real, Mikey B? Luka Doncic. He's for real. He's involved in one of the two props that you have today. So deliver both.
Yeah, we're going to take Luka to go over 18.5 rebounds and assists at -120. He has at least 19 of them combined in 10 of his last 14 games. Facing the Trailblazer, they've given up the 7th most rebounds and the 13th most assists per game in the league. DeAndre Ayton is out for the Trailblazers, so that's not going to help their rebounding issues. Now, there is the potential this game could be a blowout. However, Anthony Simons has been upgraded to questionable. He's missed the last 3 games with an illness for the Trailblazers. So Ayton, he might be the only game that they're without. I think they keep this close enough for Luka to go over 18.5 rebounds and assists. And then we're going to go to the Rockets. We're going to take Jalen Green over 19.5 points at -120. The Rockets are going to be shorthanded again. Dylan Brooks is out. He has missed each of the last 3 games. In each of those games, Green scored at least 22 points. He averaged 17 shot attempts per game during that stretch. That's in comparison to just 14.3 shot attempts per game for the season. The Nets have the 7th worst defensive rating in the league. I think plenty of shot attempts are coming his way, so I like Green to get at least 20 points.
All right, love that. We got to go to Tim Doyle's pick, but before we do that, David Tuck says, Sia, I like Nebraska -5. Your thoughts? Full disclosure, I haven't really looked at that game. I will now that you mentioned it. And let's see, there was somebody else that might have had a question. It was Mark Buchholz. He says, any chance of having an additional pick? You live in New Jersey and you can't make the pick that I give it. I don't have an additional pick right now. I will say this, depending on how lineups come out in this Clippers game, assuming the Clippers are like a full go with their players, I do like them. Even if that grows to 4, I think I probably like it there. So that's a game I'm personally going to be considering as we get longer into the night, and maybe I'll put that out on SportsLine. But that's the only other game on any of the slates that I personally would be considering. We covered that in the marquee matchups if you want to go back and listen to everyone's analysis on that. Tim Doyle, in those marquee matchups, you had a team that you liked. And that team is your official pick. So talk to us about it.
Yeah, it's funny hearing Mike go into his numbers, Barner and McClure. I'm actually in the wrong spot on the video here. I need to be looking over their shoulders because I'll just let you know, in high school, that's exactly what I'm 6'6". I would have been looking right at their Scantron, Sia. And Marty, I don't know if they have Scantrons in England, but that's how you figure the little answers, A, B, C. I could memorize like 36 B, B, C, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. Like I could get 100 on every test just looking over Barner and McClure's shoulder, okay? So I like that Jalen Green pick a lot. My pick is going to be the New York Knicks. The Bulls, the second half of back-to-back, no Vooch. Kobe White's a game-time decision. If you watched the Knicks last out, OG Anunoby locks up defensively. They beat the T-Wolves. They're missing one guy to win an NBA championship. It's a pretty big guy, but if they ever get him in New York, they will win a title. It's Joel Embiid. Now they have the right team built correctly. And if Embiid somehow gets to New York next year, they're going to be my pick to win it all because they have all the formula. And OG Anunoby was such a great pickup. I would lay 11 in this spot. And see, I love you talking about Big East basketball. There it is, my friend. If you want the NIT championship ring from St. John's, you can get this for low 3 figures.
Low 3 figures. By the way, this is actually a true story. Tim Doyle, no, we don't need to see the ring anymore. It's not as magnificent as you think it is. I just texted my buddy Dean Barry, who played alongside Allen Iverson. I think he was there a couple of years after.
Oh, name dropping, Sia.
Well, I mean, yes, I'm doing it after the king of all name droppers, of course. Speaking of name dropping, I asked him, hey, do you know who Tim Doyle is? You might have been on the same court. And he said, this is a quote. I'm reading it right now. He just texted me back. Again, Dean Barry is who taught Allen Iverson the crossover. Go back to Allen Iverson's Hall of Fame speech. He actually gives Dean Barry credit in that speech for it. He says, Tim, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
How about that?
And you want to know a quick story, okay? Martin, you might appreciate this. when you look like Tim Doyle, okay, and you step on a basketball court, everybody just yells out, shooter! But I was not a shooter, so don't stereotype me, okay, just because I have to comb over hair. And it's funny, my wife used to mess around with Kyle Korver in college. I'm not really sure if they were dating, whatever it was. But she thought she was getting a shooter, Sia, because talk about Korver's one of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA. And then during the pandemic, she got me his old Hawks jersey because those were his best years. He made an all-star team there. And that's how we used to spice it up. She put the chairs out and run some double staggers. I don't know where this all came from, but yes, you want to know something, Dean? Maybe you don't remember me, but you may remember the hair, okay?
Hey, he said you sounded familiar. I would take that as a positive sign. I can't believe you're 6'6", by the way. You can't tell sitting in that chair. All right, Mike McClure, I trust you're not 6'6", but I do also trust that you have a total in a college basketball game, which I know is going to make everybody happy, including Mario. I know this pick was also put out on SportsLine, or at least I think it was put out on SportsLine earlier. Talk to us about the pick.
Yes, yeah, up on SportsLine this morning, about an hour or so before this show went live. We're talking Stanford, UCLA here. I played this under 139.5. The market has moved pretty significantly in the last hour and a half on this. We're now 137.5, 137s across the market. I expect it to close around 136.5, 137. My computer number here, though, I made it down to 134. You know the drill on this one, really. It's contrasting styles. We love when we find contrasting styles. You get them in college basketball, unlike any other sport, really, because there are so many teams and just the nature of the sport in general. So UCLA loves to play slow, 325th in pace of play. We track 362 schools. So essentially as slow as it can get. Stanford likes to play with a little tempo, but they're going to definitely be playing at UCLA's pace, in my opinion here. It should be a relatively competitive game, one that UCLA is definitely the better team in. And then a thing that is a little underrated here that I like on both sides, both teams are pretty disciplined in terms of not picking up fouls, especially the Stanford side. Actually, one of the top 10 teams in college basketball in avoiding picking up fouls. I think that is significant here whenever you have a close total and a number like this. So we went under 139.5. Again, computer number makes it 134. Up to you if you still want to play it at 137.
All right. Bradley Jacobs says, I got McClure's pick at 139.5 on the DK alt spread minus 120 this AM, minus 120 again, pays to be a SportsLine member. So again, we don't just say it to say it. It's actually true. When some of these picks go on SportsLine, the lines change pretty much immediately. So make sure you are a SportsLine member if you want to get these picks right when they come out. Let's look at the picks, by the way. Let's look at the recap screen. Martin Green, Atletico Madrid, Dave Matthews Band, plus 100. Of course, that's draw no bet. Newcastle moneyline, minus 130. I've got Providence at home, minus 6.5. Tim Doyle, Knicks, minus 9.5. Mikey B, Doncic, over 18.5 rebounds and assists. Jalen Green over 19.5 points. And Mike McClure, he's got that Stanford UCLA under 139.5, which you could have gotten on SportsLine an hour ago. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great, entertaining show. We covered the NBA. We covered college basketball. We covered it all. Tim Doyle looking into his bag of props. Tim, do you have anything else? Tell us. If you got something else, you got to tell us.
Yeah, I'm always amazed what I find in here. It's just like an old media thing that I have in there. I'm not really sure. I keep candy in here like an old grandmother would. Like if you guys want a sucker in church, I have that as well.
All right. I guess that is probably a good place to close shop. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining the show today. We of course will be back with you tomorrow. Great show talking about the marquee matchups again, NBA, college basketball. We got some props. We got some totals. Tried to cover it all on this Wednesday. And don't forget, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I'll have some golf picks too, but look out for SportsLine. Just what Mike McClure, he put it in the chat, the link to the simulations. But of course, SportsLine and the early edge will be littered with picks. So don't worry about that when it comes to golf. And the early wedge will be back very soon. So stay tuned for all of that. On behalf of Jake the Snake on the ones and twos, Tim Doyle, Mike McClure, Mikey B, and Martin Green, I am the counselor of cash. This is the early wedge. No, it's not. This is the early edge. And we rest our case.